It is Monday, April 8th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was very, very excellent. Get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. I actually did a 2-a-day today. And I mean, that's like a miracle, man. I mean, with my age, I have not done a 2-a-day since high school. I think maybe my sophomore year I did a 2-a-day, and that was it. That was the last time. Like, the only time I've ever come close to an actual 2-a-day training day has just been work. Just physical work. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting day. This morning, as far as what we covered, we were doing a little bit of back take and a little bit of triangle. And I've been having a lot of trouble with my back take. And so I tried to get that in on Sunday as well, that there are certain spots on the back take process where I get hung up. And so I've been trying to root out exactly the point and see if I can choke it to death. But yeah, as far as what kind of techniques we covered, it was mostly passing the guard. Just neat ways around the guard. And we did this really interesting one today where you kind of pin your opponent down with your head and then kick your leg out, and like it's not like a normal thing where you just kick your leg back. You circle back with your leg to where you flip yourself over almost, because at first you're facing your opponent, and this one it flips you over and puts you in a really good position to assume a really dominant side control. And so that was a bit of what we were working today. We did do a little bit of sparring, a little bit of positional sparring, and I was rolling with a gentleman who is so excellent at jiu-jitsu that it's one of those things where you don't know if he's just giving in to you, or he really couldn't do anything, or it's like, what is it, man? Did I do good, or are you just letting me have it, or am I progressing? Where's my purple belt? But yeah, so it's always very challenging for me personally to kind of gauge exactly where I'm at when I'm rolling with him, because I know he's good. He's like 8 times faster than I am. I would say he's a little bit stronger than I am. He's younger than I am, so he's a little more explosive. And he's definitely a lot better trained than I am. So I mean, I got all kinds of stuff not in my favor here. But nonetheless, I do what I can to try and stave him off for just a moment. And it's a challenge, man. It's one of those things where I get this impression like he's just got this big Rolodex in his head, and wherever I move, he's got like a card, and, oh yeah, this one is applicable here. I mean, how do you deal with that shit? I mean, and he's so casual and smooth about it. It's like, I never had a chance. I might have had an illusion of a chance, but that was about it. I'm living by this guy's mercy alone. It's a daunting position to be in. But I did have the opportunity to flip it around. The last gentleman that I rolled with was a white belt, and I gotta say, he's progressed really, really fast. He's a bit younger guy. I don't even think he's over 21. But like I said, he's very strong. He might be a little over 21, but not much. I'm sure he's not in his 30s yet. But nonetheless, his game is picked up really, really quickly. And so, I didn't have to, let him have a lot. But, I gave him a little bit of time to think about his position, what position I was in, how I was blocking him, and then how to deal with the situation. And, I was kind of aggressive at first when it was my turn to pass his guard, and I passed his guard six or seven different ways, and then when it was his turn to try and pass my guard, I was sweeping him and passing his guard, and getting him in my guard, and so on and so forth. But toward the end, I did slow up a little bit because I felt like I was rolling too hard, for his skill level anyway. But don't get me wrong, this guy is not a pushover. It's just that I'm that much stronger and more experienced than he is at this moment. If I were to take 2 months off and come back, I don't think it would have looked like that at all. Like I said, he's a very athletic kid, and I think he'll progress very, very quickly. I certainly, from my observation, he has been. So I can only imagine that rate of increased improvement would definitely continue on. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, I don't have the slightest clue. I kind of gel out during the weekend. I do have some tabs open, so in an emergency, I might have a direction to take us in. But I did get another newer album. This one's by Fear Factory, and I really like Fear Factory, but for a little bit I kind of bowed out of collecting their stuff. I think it was Concrete. I wasn't really happy with, and so I kind of hung back. And then I started listening to their newer stuff again, and it's like, oh, okay, they figured out whatever the fuck it was that they didn't do right with that album, and they've improved. And it seems like they do seem to improve with every single album. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw it down. First song, Mechanized by Fear Factory, here on Coin Metal. First Dance. And that was Rivers of Nile with a Home. Excuse me. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, I got a couple articles right here on the handle. And it seems like I never run out of people that want to talk shit to me about a Lightning Network thing or another. And I really don't understand it myself. I think the whole idea of Lightning is great if it is something that is peer-to-peer and is not being run behind the scenes by a big bank or some other third party that's providing the services of a bank. But other than that, I don't really see it working out the way that a lot of people think that it will. And I think this the most recent hop in Bitcoin price, actually today's hop in Bitcoin price, probably taught some people about exactly what a premium there is on that whole block space. It's really easy to talk about things like Lightning and whatnot when we're paying like 5 to 15 cents for a transaction fee. You start getting up there over $2, all of a sudden now you're in competition with an ATM machine that I can go down the street and use. Chances are I'll be able to leave my house, drive 15 miles to the ATM, get my money, come all the way back here, and still not have a first confirmation on a Bitcoin transaction that I started before I even left. And that really should not... I shouldn't be able to say that about Bitcoin. There should be enough room in the blocks to get that first confirmation within 10 minutes. Or 10 minutes or slightly over. But not much more over than that. And so it's really funny to me that people keep arguing for it, and it's like, dude, have you tried to do a Bitcoin transaction lately? Imagine that you need to establish a payment channel, or you don't get to remain living in the place that you're living in. Only you're not paying a 10 or 15 cent transaction fee. No, you need to pay a few $1,000s for a transaction fee. And I know that sounds just fucking ludicrous, right? But think about it. We just went from 4,000 to 5,000. The effect on the fee price was to multiply it by 10 times for that $1,000. Now, do I expect it to go up that rapidly and be that expensive every time it goes up 1,000? Not necessarily, but I do expect it to increase significantly as the price does go up. And that being the case, people talk about Bitcoin being like 100,000 or 250,000. Dude, if Bitcoin were $250,000, you would not be transacting it. You wouldn't be able to afford to transact it. Your transaction fee would be so fucking high, only banks would be able to use it. And this is something I keep telling people, and they're like, oh no, you can make the transactions smaller on the blockchain so they take up like space. Yeah, you know what, dude? I had this conversation with somebody really, really early this morning, and it's like this. If Core or anybody else that is involved in the Bitcoin network at this moment was interested in making the transactions cheaper for you, the really easy way to take care of that would be to increase the block size. But then again, if they did that, then you wouldn't have an actual reason to use Lightning Network, because there's no longer the threat of being extorted off the blockchain now. Because every time we start experiencing a little bit of congestion, people will be like, hey man, bump up the block size, that worked last time. And of course, we're so far behind, I think, I want to say Moore's Law, but that people get hung up on the fact that was actually the observed in the context of the number of transistors on a chip. That's just one expression of it. The fact of the matter is that things get cheaper and faster and better over time. And that's because we're constantly reviewing some designs, and we're like, you know what, we can add this feature to it and make it a little better, or we can add this feature to it and make it a little better. And that happens over time. We can move the manufacturing plant another few thousand miles closer to the highest concentration of our business. That makes things cheaper, And so this process is continuing over time, and it's been continuing with regard to bandwidth. Only we've been really stuck here on the Bitcoin blockchain at 1 megabyte, or like roughly 1.8 megabytes or some shit like that. Anyway, point being that we have not increased block size along with the capabilities of bandwidth, or the bandwidth capacity that we've had since we started using 1 megabyte as the block size limit. And so that means for the average user, we could be handling bigger blocks. We could be handling like 8 megabyte to 16 megabyte blocks without any issue, and not even be topping them out. And again, that would make transaction fees a lot cheaper individually. Sorry, I had to hydrate there. Anyway, so I got this article here on CoinSpice, or coinspice.io. Lightning Network makes BTC a lost cause. A non-dev poxed on switching to BCH. And this is by Linzard, April 8th, 2019. And let me check something here. Linzard. It could be Lindsay, which could be a boy. Oh! So yes, penis. Had to figure it out. TLDR, independent anonymous developer Poxed once used his skills to attempt bettering Bitcoin Core, BTC. Recently, however, he's come to a realization. Quote, unfortunately, the Lightning Network is an over-engineered mess. It was enough to get him searching for a better place to build, and he's since landed in the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. He's brought over his hallmark project with him, Crescent Cash. We caught up with the dev for an exclusive interview, and let's check that. That might be our path. Lightning Network, an over-engineered mess. In his Why I'm Moving to BCH, Pox wrote, I like innovation. I had high hopes for the Lightning Network. However, he quickly found out how incredibly difficult it was to, quote, walk someone through LN's basic structure. Quote, it's not that I'm against the Lightning Network, he explained. It's just that the entire system itself could have been designed so much better than how it currently is. The journey is very much like the scaling debate of a few years ago, and he understands the tension between larger blocks and keeping the networks suitably decentralized. What stood out to him most is what he termed, quote, hypocrisy of some within the Bitcoin dev community. He refers to a 1 megabyte block size limit as, quote, unbearable, and though BTC proponents claim, quote, it's to keep the costs of running a node down, he notes, quote, but at the same time we're paying $50 plus dollars in transaction fees in 2017 and roughly $1 in transaction fees in 2019. That simply does not make any sense. Actually, it does if you consider the value of Bitcoin at the times. In 2017, it was creeping up over, I want to say 8,000 or 9,000, somewhere around there. As a result, he's, quote, just continuing with my journey as a cryptocurrency and software development and seeing where Bitcoin Cash takes me. Quote, insisting he'll begin porting my current apps over to the BCH network. One of those is Crescent Cash, a port of an already existent BTC project called Crescent Pay, one of the first Pox helped develop. However, this is not just a straight port of an earlier version that runs on the sibling chain. It has a set of improvements that make it a wallet of its own. Interview with Poxed, Bitcoin Cash, and Crescent. It's one of the first implementations of cash accounts, a system that lets users substitute addresses that were previously alphanumerical long strings for a more understandable, user-friendly format that produces tags like Elon 420. Pox told us that he's taken a special interest in making Crescent Cash a noob-friendly wallet, and cash accounts seem like a good fit. Pox describes himself as an ordinary college student, earning a degree in computer science, who likes to tinker with code in his free time. CoinSpice, how did you get into cryptocurrency? Poxed, I started looking into Bitcoin somewhere between 2013 and 2014 when the price rose above $1,000. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I watched it all the way down to the $200 range. I was a freshman in high school, so I didn't have any funds to buy anything. Once I got a job a couple years later, I began buying it. I didn't really have a use for it at the time, just thought the technology was cool. I stayed because everyone in this community is really cool. Why did you change your efforts from BTC to Bitcoin Cash? I was a fan of Bitcoin BTC, and I'm a fan of innovation, so I'm always looking for new technologies and systems. I had high hopes for the Lightning Network, but after using it for a while, it was clear to me that all this time spent on it has gone down the drain. It's simply too difficult and unstable for the layman to use. If we want Bitcoin to succeed, it needs to have an amazing yet simple user experience for the average person, like how Apple designs their products. With the complexity of Lightning Network, BTC is a lost cause. Bitcoin Cash still works flawlessly, just like how BTC used to. So you're an ease of use fan? You are an ease of use fan? Yep, I'd like to call myself tech savvy, and I like to tinker with things and get things how I want. I still enjoy apps that are just extremely simple and quick to use. That gets us to Crescent Cash. Why a tailored new BCH wallet? What did the others lack? So a major issue with cryptocurrencies are the long addresses, like 1, BCH1, Q, etc. addresses. I like Cash App's cash tags, which makes paying a user very, very simple. I made Crescent Pay for BTC, but it relied on a centralized server for usernames and relied on storing the wallet's extended public key so the server could generate addresses. I wasn't happy with it, but it worked. With Bitcoin Cash, the cash account system introduces nearly the same thing, but it's decentralized. It's secure, decentralized, and human readable with their example hashtag 100 alias system. Most wallets for BCH do not support it fully yet, so I wanted to be the first to essentially get my foot in the door and start pushing it, and hopefully other wallets adapt. Jonathan Silverblood, the cash account developer, actually helped quite a bit with development. He finished up the registration system API so I could finish Crescent Cash. How will the wallet evolve? How difficult was developing for Bitcoin Cash? Currently, I want to get the base system done and very well made, polish up the UI UX, and features currently being requested. Night mode is a big one. Right now, I'm polishing a lot of the UI to make it more user-friendly for complete newcomers to cryptocurrencies. Developing for BCH was very easy. It's just like BTC, considering they share most of the chain up until about mid-2017. Really easy to port things over for BCH users. Editor's note, recently a Crescent Cash user uploaded a demonstration video below, and we're not going to watch that or whatever. So that's kind of interesting. It's not quite what I had anticipated, but anywho, yeah, I've been saying it for a while that Bitcoin Cash does work pretty much like Bitcoin used to. And when I say used to, I mean that it used to take about 10 minutes to get your first confirmation, and it was relatively cheap. Actually, it was very cheap. That's beside the point. Or actually, it really is the point. Is that's where I see all of this stuff really having an issue. And I can't remember the developer's name, but somebody had posted something on Twitter concerning a reserve that's held aside out of your Bitcoin. Apparently, when you load up your Bitcoin on your Lightning node, there's a subset amount, an adjustable amount, and it adjusts with, I guess, the average fee for the on-chain transaction, that it reserves an amount of Bitcoin for that. So now think about it this way. What if, just what if you load up your node and you've got, say, $50 on your node? You literally will not be able to close it because in the event that the fees go back over $50, your entire balance just turned to quote-unquote dust. See, that's one of the problems with not increasing the block size, is that it makes the fees more expensive for the same block space as the price of Bitcoin goes up and the demand for block space goes up. And so that means that eventually you will have a balance on your node or on your wallet that is too small to be affordable to TX, because the fee itself will be more expensive, or will be more in money anyway, than the transaction that you want to conduct. And I came really close to this myself, where I wanted to make a $60 exchange, and it cost me $22 to do it. I mean, that's damn near my balance there was damn near dust. But that's the situation that we are going to continue to run into as long as we are limited to a 1 megabyte on the block space. Because again, there will be peak times when there are a lot of people that are trying to get their fucking transaction in a block. And as a matter of fact, I started seeing posts for there's a website out there that calculates your transaction fees, and it shows a graph of what the median transaction fee is and has been over time. And you see this huge spike at the end where it turns to $2. That's just ludicrous. And when you look on the transaction charts for number of transactions per block, you see this huge spike People trying to move around money with Bitcoin. And like I said, that makes it a situation that becomes completely unaffordable if you're not some big ass bank or some big ass heavy roller where you're setting up a payment channel for several $1,000s because you intend to be transacting out of it for the next month. You know, eventually you're not going to be able to afford to re-up that. I mean, unless you're getting progressively rich as time goes on. But in all honesty, I don't see the devaluation of say the US dollar or any fiat currency accelerating so fast that you're going to be in a position where you can basically live off the appreciation in perpetuity. I don't think that it's going to happen that fast. But anyway, I wanted to get a little bit deeper into this guy's mentations as far as departing from BTC and moving over to BCH. I'm hoping for maybe a little more technical explanation of his objections. And this is on poxt.xyz/BCH. Why I'm moving to BCH. I like innovation. I had high hopes for the Lightning Network. Unfortunately, the Lightning Network is an over-engineered mess. Trying to walk someone through depositing Bitcoin to a wallet, opening a channel, and routing the payment through the network, then explaining why larger payments do not route well, will kill the adoption of the Lightning Network, despite the best intentions of current competing implementations of the protocol. It's not that I'm against Lightning Network, it's just that the entire system itself could have been designed so much better than how it currently is. I'm also not opposed to larger blocks to an extent. I see 32 megabytes currently as a reasonable block size limit in terms of transactions per second and the cost of HD space. Space per gigabyte, which is about 128 megabytes, is too much, assuming blocks are full, and not really needed at the moment. Oh my god, I could not agree with you more, sir. Not to mention the hypocrisy. The biggest issue that stands out to me is stating that we need to keep blocks small to keep the nodes decentralized. I agree with that. Unfortunately, the 1 megabyte block size limit has become unbearable. They say it's to keep the cost of running a node down, but at the same time, we're paying $50 transaction fees. Dude, it feels like this person wasn't actually, interviewed. You know, that they just, scalped this information from here and called that an interview. Wrapping up, I mean no harm to my Bitcoin friends. I'm just continuing on my journey with cryptocurrency and software development and seeing where Bitcoin Cash takes me. I hope you understand. I still support all of you in this broader Bitcoin movement against the government and banks. I just need to figure out my path currently. Some people I look up to for both BTC and BCH. You guys should definitely follow these people, Mitoshin and you name. Yeah, okay. Well, unfortunately, that didn't give us too much deeper a look into his mentations. I don't know, maybe I ought to try and get them on here or something. Or him. But anyway, I found this other thing. And this... It was kind of refreshing to read this, considering that it was Mike Hearn who wrote it. And, you know, this person that was talking smack to me earlier today had the audacity to call Mike Hearn an idiot. Okay, you know, you can call me an idiot all you want. I mean, the best I got going is this show. You know, and maybe a successful trade or two. Mr. Hearn has been in this space since, I don't know, a couple weeks in, couple months in. He was not a really, I don't know, maybe a couple years in. I don't think he was that late. I honestly believe he was earlier than that. I can't remember exactly when he did start, but I'm sure maybe this article will actually talk about it a little bit. However, again, knowing that he's one of the Bitcoin Core developers before there was actually a Bitcoin Core that was paid by Blockstream and all that other bullshit, this guy was involved way back then. Anyway, so here it is. The capacity cliff. and this is written by Mike Hearn on May 5th, 2015, 4 years ago, and why we can't use fancy tricks to avoid it. That's the subtitle of it. This article analyzed some proposed alternatives to raising Bitcoin's network capacity, specifically the Lightning Network. But the arguments made are general and could apply to other proposed alternatives too. First, a bit of background. Many years ago, Satoshi Nakamoto added a quick hack to the Bitcoin source code. He artificially limited its capacity to avoid a rogue miner causing problems for people in an era when using Bitcoin meant downloading the entire chain with a slow and unoptimized client. The limit was intended to be removed. In fact, Satoshi intended it to be removed as soon as SPV wallets were developed. I know this because at the end of 2010, I emailed him to ask him about it. He responded, quote, "A higher limit can be phased in once we have actual use closer to the limit and make sure it's working okay. Eventually, when we have client-only implementations, the blockchain size won't matter much. Until then, while all users still have to download the entire blockchain to start, it's nice if we can keep it down to a reasonable size." By client only, he was talking about wallets like Bitcoin Wallet for Android, Multibit, Bread Wallet, etc. The SPV wallet wasn't in use back then. It's a phrase I coined when I wrote the first implementation. According to Satoshi's original thinking, the limit could have been increased years ago, but we left it to the last minute instead. According to my rough calculations, Bitcoin grows in the winter and stagnates in the summer. If current trends continue, Bitcoin should run out of capacity by the start of winter 2016 and quite possibly months before. Because upgrades take time, we need to prepare for this now. Hence, Gavin is proposing a patch and starting the discussion. Some people would like to believe that we can avoid changing this limit by relying on another way to scale Bitcoin up. These people are typically not implementers. I think it won't work, and in this article, I will explain why not. Finally, a brief word about my own background for those who don't know me. I have spent the last 5 years implementing Bitcoin wallets, and before that, I spent nearly 8 years at Google. 3 of those years were spent on the Geo team, Maps/Earth, where I was a professional capacity planner for one of the world's busiest websites. Just like now, capacity planning had to be done with long lead times. In the Google world, it was because we had to physically manufacture the machines and physically build the data centers. In the Bitcoin world, it's because it takes time for people to upgrade. So I'm not inexperienced with our current dilemma. The Lightning Network. What is the Lightning Network? It's the latest name for an old idea: to use payment channels between various low-trust intermediaries in order to transmit payments. A payment channel is essentially a pot of bitcoins. Oh, wait. Maybe that's why we separate the signatures from them, because then they're not anybody's coins. It's just a mass of coins in the payment channel. Now you know why SegWit. Established on the blockchain, the split of which can be negotiated by passing messages around outside of the Bitcoin network. Eventually, the final split of the pot settles on-chain. Various Bitcoin protocol features are used to make this work in a low-trust manner. The first and primary usage of this technique is for micropayments. The messages that resplit the pot can be passed around much faster and cheaper than a Bitcoin payment can be, because it's only between two parties. But it was observed early on that a network of channels could be established between clients/servers and servers/servers that would allow for fast, low-trust payments between the parties, effectively a clearing network that runs on top of the blockchain and occasionally settles up to it on it. run by a third-party intermediary. Such a clearing network should be better than most because the requirement to settle on the blockchain would keep the intermediaries honest. And in theory, it could process more transactions than Bitcoin itself could because the blockchain only sees aggregated payments. It's a neat and attractive idea. So attractive that although the Lightning guys are currently getting all the attention, their idea has already been implemented by a Swedish startup called StrawPay. StrawPay has designed a protocol called Strom, actually Strom, but lots of people don't know how to type/pronounce that. It defines how wallets, hubs, and merchants interact and set up payment channels between them. They also have implemented a cross-platform GUI wallet that can actually do it all. The Strom protocol isn't identical to Lightning. They vary in some very technical details. Notably, Strom works with the Bitcoin protocol of today and accepts the caveats, whereas Lightning doesn't. Also, Strom specifies all the other details the Lightning paper ignores, like how to actually start a payment channel in a backwards compatible way. Bitcoin addresses cannot be used in these schemes. I like the StrawPay guys and I wish them well. I think Strom has a lot of potential for making micropayment routing faster and easier. It's quite possible that they will find a place in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but it should not be mandatory. But using it should not be mandatory. There are several reasons why requiring this approach to scale up is not good. The first is that the implementation complexity will hurt decentralization. Complexity kills kittens. It's natural for people to focus on problems and ignore things that are going well. There's only so much patting back can take after all. So, Bitcoiners tend to stress out about centralization of mining, of exchanges, of payment processing, etc. We spend much less time reflecting on our successes, and the wallet market is a big decentralization success. By now, there are probably hundreds of different wallets out there, with dozens of different implementations of the underlying algorithms. No single wallet is obviously dominant. They compete for users in a vibrant market. This is important. If there were only one or two wallets with all the users, then those wallets would essentially be gatekeepers to the system, and worse, able to change the rules of Bitcoin at a whim. The blockchain wouldn't matter because people experience the blockchain almost exclusively through their wallets. Building a wallet is no walk in the park. I should know. I've spent the last 5 years writing Bitcoin J, a reusable wallet engine that sits at the core of quite a few Bitcoin apps and services. But still, it's possible for someone to do it in their spare time without a large team of people. Contrast this to HTML5, which is only implementable by large corporations. The Bitcoin protocol isn't as simple as it looks, but it's not overwhelming either. The simplicity is key to the diversity of wallets in present use. Unfortunately, payment channels are not simple, especially once you introduce more advanced features like what Lightning proposes. You end up with a much larger, more complex piece of code. A few people have made toy implementations of payment channels, but only Bitcoin J has a real production quality implementation. Toys don't have to think about things like documentation, serialization of state to disk, unit tests, user interface integration, error management, and so on. The difference between a toy and something real is whether it's been used to make apps that you can actually give to a non-nerd. Payment channels in Bitcoin J have been used to make PayFile, which lets you pay per kilobyte to download files, multiple Android prototypes of Wi-Fi micropayment billing, and StrawPay itself. The entire StrawPay implementation is built on Bitcoin J from the ground up, and their GUI wallet is a fork of multi-bit HD. So we know the code works. That means we also know how much effort it took. Luckily, most of the work had corporate funding. You might imagine I'd be happy with the idea of everyone being forced to implement payment channels by the start of next summer. Inevitably, many developers would conclude it'd be faster just to replace their own code with the Bitcoin J/StrawPay, and I'd get a lot more users. But I don't want people to be forced to use my code in a hurry. That would create a giant dev support headache for me, and I don't want to see the hit to decentralization, even though forking Bitcoin J is very easy. Plus, developers would resent being, quote, required to use my software, and I don't want that either. So if we make it harder to build wallets, it stands to reason that there will be fewer of them. The StrawPay developers say, quote, "We have a lib written in Java that wallets should use, but it's under development. There is no support for iOS wallets yet. They don't even have a payment channel implementation as far as I know. Even with the lib at hand, there's a lot of GUI work and general plumbing for a wallet developer before the wallet is Strom enabled. Eventually, the wallet maker may consolidate around a handful of engines anyway, just as the game industry has done. But there's no need for us to accelerate that trend unnecessarily, and it would be unnecessary, because all of this is solving a non-existent problem. Bitcoin's core technology can scale up without any external assistance." Examples of dead kittens. From Lightning Network white paper. Quote, "If one does not broadcast a transaction at the correct time, the counterparty may steal funds. This can be mitigated by having a designated third party to send funds. An output fee can be added to create an incentive for this third party to watch the network." This sort of problem may seem academic, but, quote, "not broadcasting at the correct time can be caused by issues as mundane as your phone running out of batteries or roaming into an area with weak signal. It can be solved by adding yet more semi-trusted third parties, but up goes the complexity yet again. For special cases like extremely rapid microbilling, where there's no other way to do it, we just have to swallow such things. For situations where we can avoid it, we should. Another case. When one party loses data, it's possible for the counterparty to steal funds. And another. While there may be methods to mitigate the hacking threat for the sender and the receiver, the intermediary nodes must be online and will likely be processing the transaction automatically. For this reason, the intermediary nodes will be at risk and should not be holding a substantial amount of money in this, quote, hot wallet. Intermediary nodes which have better security will likely be able to outcompete others in the long run and be able to conduct greater transaction volume due to lower fees. Historically, one of the largest component of fees/interest is from various forms of counterparty risk. In Bitcoin, it's possible that the largest component in fees will be derived from security risk premiums. Hub-and-spoke payment channel networks require always-on servers that have sensitive signing keys. This is quite different to ordinary Bitcoin usage, where only the sender needs to sign, and doing all signing offline is both possible and commonplace. That raises complexity and thus costs. Hold on one moment here. Bitcoin nodes are easier than hubs. A common complaint about scaling Bitcoin up is that it will be harder to run a full node. Some people who make this complaint then point to the payment channels as a solution, ignoring that it makes it easier to run a full node by simply shifting the work onto different kinds of nodes that are much harder to set up and run. The main reason is hubs and payment channel networks are stateful, so you have to make sure they have good uptime, reliability, and working backups. In contrast, Bitcoin nodes are almost entirely stateless, and all software that accesses the peer-to-peer network knows how to recover from a node suddenly vanishing. It happens all of the time and is transparent to the user. This makes running a full node very easy and safe. If your cheap $10 VPS goes down for a reboot, nobody will notice or complain. If it suffers from massive data loss, you can just reinstall the node and it will recalculate all the data it needs from scratch. If it gets hacked, there's nothing there to steal. None of these things are true of payment channel hubs. Performance risks are high. StrawPay doesn't use the design you would intuitively imagine, in which channels link sender to hub, hub to hub, hub to receiver. Instead, hubs issue receivers with promissory notes, IOU tokens. The designers say, quote, "I was waiting for this question. This is probably the longest discussion we had. The reasons. Number 1, security. It is a complex thing to keep a payment channel server running. It has to be secure. Most merchants do not have the knowledge and could get their wallets hacked. The promissory note, the way we designed it, cannot be used by anyone else than the merchant, so it is pointless to steal it. Number 2, performance. We worry that in a network of hubs, the progression of micropayments from hub to hub would not be fast enough. Better to tell the merchant that the consumer has paid ASAP and let the merchant hold the promissory note instead. What if he gets double spent? Very hard choice. We have already covered the security issues, so that's no surprise, but you may raise eyebrows at the mention of performance. Don't. The payment channel protocols involve a lot of message round trips and signature creation/verification. These steps are not individually slow. They're measured in milliseconds, but if each step takes 200 milliseconds and you have 10 of them, suddenly payments are getting a little pokey. Broadcasting a Bitcoin transaction across the network is hardly a fast thing either, but it's at least a flood fill with plenty of room for optimization, and a transaction can be verified locally extremely fast. It's only the propagation delays that matter. Payments across hub/spoke networks are a graph traversal rather different. To put this in perspective, the EMV contactless specifications require that a payment takes less than 500 milliseconds. This includes the time needed for the smart card to boot up, establish the radio link, perform ECDSA signatures, and authorize the payment, and for the terminal to verify. Online authorizations have latency timeouts of only 200 milliseconds on each server request. The London Underground network has stations that require people to get through the gate in only 3 seconds, so performance matters. It might be that these StrawPay guys are overly conservative. The point is, nobody knows yet, because nobody has tried to build and deploy such a network. Thus, many important questions remain unanswered. There is no time. Let's ignore all of the above and assume that payment channel networks are the best thing ever. It doesn't matter, because we need a solution by the middle of next year at the latest, and none of the proposed networks even exist yet. Quite simply, we are out of time. There is no credible technical proposals that could gain widespread adoption within the next 12 months, beyond simply raising the capacity on the existing system, which is well understood and implemented by everyone already. I like the idea of Strom Lightning for fast routing of micropayments. I like the idea of payment channels for direct sender/receiver microbilling. We may one day be using wallets that support these systems, but it's engineering nonsense to talk about these things as solution to our current problems. Some people seem to think that if we hit Bitcoin's capacity limits, there will be a smooth rise in fees and the free market will sort everything out. This is incorrect. In my next article, I'll write about what will actually happen if we don't fix this problem in time. Oh, I wonder if he did actually follow that up. You know, and I'm going to check that during the next music break. I actually replied to this one in November 18th, 2015. I think the problem has been the focus has been pushed away from onboarding more people on the mining end and trying to push more transactions off-chain. 8 megabyte blocks would solve every problem we are having on-chain now. The focus for off-chain stuff should always be left to the vendors and others who want/need to do things off-chain. It is not the concern of Bitcoin to make itself so it fits directly into the spec of individual entities. It is the concern of entities to configure their own payment schemes so that they may accept Bitcoin payments. Not saying there should be no effort to make APIs in common libs/formats designed for some end users, but these should not be made into the conditions for all users. SW/LN is designed/meant to create a position for a new class of third-party intermediary, to make Bitcoin just as bad, if not worse, than the fiat currency systems it was designed to give competition to and eventually replace. And somebody did clap that one. Let me see if there's any other responses. Let's see. Excellent article. Block size is not the only one. Dude, you just read an article written by one of the main Bitcoin developers who tells you that we don't have time for other bullshit and that there really isn't anything in the channel that's really, gonna solve this issue. And the first thing, excellent article. I would like to add, rising the block size is not the only possible immediate solution nor the best. Decreasing the block interval rate to 1 minute is the best technical solution. Orphan rate can be easily kept at the current rate by several known and simple protocol solutions. It will not hurt mining pools if latency is optimized. It has the additional benefit of reducing the payment time, or in other words, increasing the granularity of a secure confirmation. Since everyone is posting about it now, not to mention innumerable past posts, I'll do a new post on this subject soon. And that one got quite a few claps, and that is an interesting solution. And there have been other coins that have implemented that. As a matter of fact, Verge works on a 30-second block time, and I think Ethereum is about the same. Litecoin is like 2.5 minutes. So it's not like the block interval hasn't been adjusted, and it seems to work. So just like increasing the block size is a possible solution in it, and it's worked for Bitcoin Cash, I don't think it's beyond reason to assume the possibility of reducing the block interval. However, I don't see that one as being quite as popular as simply increasing the block size, honestly. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And as far as where to go from there, Ride the Illusion by Sixth here on Coin Metal. If I can get it to play. There we go. And that was Prong with Absence of Light. And I just wanted to do a quick thing here. I saw Poxed posted something on and came across my Twitter feed, and I wanted to kind of acknowledge that I read his thing today. Read your article about bailing on saying to come BCH to go to BCH. Article on my show tonight. Good read. Best of luck. Because that's what we wish here, you know? Best of luck. No matter what you're involved in with regard to cryptocurrencies. I believe good things in the future. Anyway, so sent that. Good to go. And I did have a follow-up to some other stuff that we were covering tonight. I'm trying to find the right article. I tend to read them all the way down to the comments section. I love the comment sections. That's Mike Hearn's thing. We don't really need that. Not that one. Not that one. Not making ICO in 15 minutes. This is it. Yeah, you know, the one of the alternatives to using things like Lightning is, of course, having an SPV wallet or an Electrum wallet, you know, whatever. Anyway, I got this article here on ccn.com, and this is, you know, again, it's because it's an, I think anyway, because it's an alternative to using Lightning Network. So here it is. Bitcoin wallet Electrum servers are under massive attack. This is by P.H. Midori. It was authored the 8th of April 2019. Here we go. Electrum Bitcoin wallet users should ensure they are using the latest version and that it's from an official source. If users find themselves urged to, quote, update by the client, they should know that there is no update mechanism within Electrum itself. This urging comes as Popular Crypto Wallet faces a massive DOS attack designed to trick users into installing Bitcoin stealing malware. Electrum users must upgrade to latest version. Currently, a massive attack targets the hundreds of servers that service Electrum wallets. Previous attacks have netted hundreds of Bitcoins. Electrum is an SPV wallet, meaning that the user doesn't need to have the entire Bitcoin database on their computer to use Bitcoin. They can quickly install Electrum, generate a wallet, and begin using Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Litecoin, and even Dogecoin, all of which have Electrum forks developed by third parties. The attack is reportedly sending 25 gigabytes per second at various Electrum servers to make them inaccessible. In this way, Electrum wallets, especially older ones, are more likely to connect to the malicious servers. Thomas Vogelin, who created Electrum and still maintains it, told the Next Web that users of older versions are most at risk. Quote, indeed, updated versions are not at risk, but these servers might be temporarily unavailable. If this is the case, we recommend to users that they stick to the same server, disable AutoConnect, until they eventually manage to open a session. Electrum server update is coming. Quote, Electrum servers are currently under DOS attack. We are working on a more robust version of the Electrum server. In the meantime, affected users should disable AutoConnect and select their server manually. Recently, Electrum launched a two-pronged counterattack on the consistent phishing and malware attacks against Electrum users. For one thing, they submitted a list of fake domains to Google, who will prevent users from visiting it in the Chrome browser. For another, they forced unpatched older versions of Electrum offline once they connect to a quote legitimate server. This urges the user to investigate the matter. However, a messaging system within the Electrum protocol enables malicious servers to send a note that quote updates are required. If users install the forked version of the client and allow it to access their existing wallets, they will inevitably lose funds. Attacking Bitcoin wallet users is a profitable endeavor, only because the incentive has become higher than actually playing by the rules. Continuing, an unidentified security researcher reports that millions have already been stolen this way. Electrum attacks have gone on for years. However, when used correctly, Electrum is every bit as secure as any other crypto wallet. Protecting your private keys, using strong passwords, and keeping the software up to date is critical when dealing with cryptocurrencies. Vogelin and researchers believe that the denial of service attack may be a response to efforts which have thwarted their attacks. Vogelin says that in current circumstances, assuming most people are using the latest official version of Electrum, attackers need more than just a connection. They also need compromised client software. The idea is to get people to install that client by falsely notifying them that they need an update. The effectiveness of this attack so far is stunning, but hopefully getting enough noise around the issue will encourage users to act more cautiously, Vogelin says. Of course, the attacker might be trying to take down legit servers in order to keep carrying out their phishing attack, but they do not simply need the user to connect to their server. What they need is a vulnerable client to connect exclusively to their servers, and that is a lot less likely. Download updates from official sources today. The official website of Electrum is electrum.org. Any other site, unless it is explicitly for a fork of Electrum from another blockchain, such as Electrum Cash, it is both non-official and potentially dangerous. If you've already updated your Electrum wallet to the latest version, you are encouraged to disable the quote auto-connect feature by which the malicious servers could connect with you. A list of semi-reliable servers is available here, and they provide you a neat little link for that. It may take some time as the servers are under continual attack, but you should eventually get going with minor inconvenience. It should also be noted that forks of Electrum, such as Electrum Cash and Electrum SV, will invariably be vulnerable to the same attack vectors for some time. As such, it is essential to use the same practices with these clients as well. Connect to known, non-compromised nodes and wait for a good connection if necessary. Oh, and that was yes, penis. Apparently some people don't like the fact that you have the opportunity to use a wallet that allows you to spend your Bitcoin from anywhere to anywhere, and they want to rob you of that. My option for that, my encouragement to users would be to set up a fucking Electrum server. Contribute to the cause, man. Help out. I think that that's one of the things about crypto that's changed the most, and I find it probably the most disappointing is that originally most people that were talking in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency projects were specifically telling you, get involved, man. Find a project you like, contribute to it. I've been doing this for, 3 or 4 years now, on and off, and that's been my contribution to crypto, I guess, is kind of putting it out there and giving it a voice. Hopefully a sexy voice to some of you. Anyway, I wanted to get back into that that thing, let's see. Yeah, here's another article with regard to the this DOS attack. Bitcoin wallet Electrum hit by DOS attack from 140,000 strong botnet. Holy shit. And this is on thenextweb.com. And this is by David Canellis. The server... Oh, so yes, penis. It doesn't actually give us a date on this one. Interesting. Anyway, continuing. The servers of popular Bitcoin BTC wallet Electrum are under heavy attack, and users are advised to be extra careful when using the platform until it's resolved. A sophisticated botnet of more than 140,000 machines has launched a denial of service attack on Electrum servers with apparent intent to direct users to compromised versions of the software designed to seal their Bitcoin. Bad actors have even deployed their own Electrum servers, hosting, quote, backdoored versions of the Electrum client en masse. If a user successfully syncs with their vulnerable Electrum wallet with a malicious server, hundreds detected so far, they're instructed to, quote, update their client with a hacked version. The security researcher familiar with the matter told Hardfork if these fake versions of Electrum are installed, all funds contained in the old wallets are immediately lost. Quote, the total amount stolen is in the millions of dollars so far, with a single person alone losing $140,000 based on our analysis, he said. Quote, these DOS attacks are a new level, which only began about a week ago. People have seen 25 gigabits per second worth of traffic being flooded at community-run servers. Electrum servers are warned they could face service interruptions as administrators continue to work to mitigate the damage caused by the intense incoming traffic. Quote, we hope to resolve this in the upcoming hours or days, lead Electrum developer Thomas Vogelin told Hardfork. This could be in retaliation over new protections for Electrum users. Bitcoin phishing has actually plagued the Electrum community for months. Indeed, Trojan Horse, Electrum Stealer, and its variants are thought to have already stolen millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin from unsuspecting Electrum users. Whilst there is no explicit link connecting the DOS attack and the phishing campaign, their latest attack seems focused entirely on users with out-of-date Electrum clients. Our source explained that devs modified some key Electrum servers to reduce the odds of exposure to the phishing scam. It is this, they speculated, that has led the attackers to perform such large-scale DOS attack against Electrum servers. With the benign servers down due to the attack, there's a strong likelihood of people connecting to the malicious ones, they said. Quote, original versions of the attack used modified Electrum servers abusing a bug in the Electrum wallet to send messages telling users that they need to upgrade their software to a malicious version. These were originally tackled by using Google's safe browsing service to make them inaccessible to possible victims. Currently, there are over 200 detected domains that appear to be hosting the Electrum malware. For example, electrumx.network. Unfortunately, as Google takes its time to update its safe browsing database, blacklisting malicious servers has become ineffective. Lead dev Vogelin explained a patch had previously been issued to force out-of-date, vulnerable Electrum wallets offline as soon as a connection to a legit server was found. Electrum needs 8 to 10 connections to fully operate. Quote, we are not sure what motivates the attacker. It might be some kind of retaliation after we took steps last month in order to prevent phishing attacks, he commented. Quote, "This counterattack has been effective against phishing because it does not require a lot of legit servers. If you randomly connect to 10 servers, the chance of at least one of them is performing the counterattack is very high." Quote, "We have not heard of any recent success at the phishing attack since we deployed this counterattack," said Vogelin. Long forgotten Electrum users most at risk. Currently, Electrum has no auto-update mechanism, so it will continue to run old and vulnerable versions until users manually upgrade the client themselves. With this in mind, Vogelin emphasized users most at risk are those who downloaded Electrum long ago and have not updated the software since. Indeed, updated versions are not at risk, but the service may be temporarily unavailable. If this is the case, we recommend to users that they stick to the same server, disable Auto Connect, until they eventually manage to open the session, he continued. Of course, the attacker might be trying to take down legit servers in order to keep carrying out their phishing attack, but they do not simply need the user to connect to their server, Vogelin confirmed. Quote, "What they need is a vulnerable client to connect exclusively to their servers, and that is a lot less likely. So to be safe, users are encouraged to strictly download Electrum software from electrum.org domain and its official GitHub repository. Installing and updating Electrum clients from only these locations is said to be a main method of protection against these attacks." A related patch is currently being prepared by devs. Electrum also urged users to run their own servers, as more legitimate public Electrum servers effectively work to dilute the attack. Did you know? Hardfork has its own stage at TNW 2019, and yeah, whatever. Okay. So there you have it. Personally, I think this is all a big coordinated attack intended to push people into using Lightning Network. I know that sounds like a bit of a stretch, right? But as we've noted on this particular episode, Mike Hearn was writing about this shit as early as 2015 or 2016? Let me find that article really quick. I could have swore he said it was 2015. Let me undo close tab and see if I might have... No, I was trying to find the right one here. Oh yeah, there it is, Capacity Cliff. This is 2015. Okay, so you want to tell me that people that have been attacking the functionality of Bitcoin since at least 2015 would not be sophisticated or well backed enough to set up 140,000 nodes? I think they are. The same entity has probably been responsible for several such attacks against things like Bitcoin Unlimited and Syscoin when they were not SegWit, and a few others. See, people tend to forget this is money we're talking about here. Cryptocurrencies are money. They're intended as peer-to-peer cash, at least the good ones are. And so the fact is, people are going to try and steal it. And not only that, the people that had the monopoly on money to begin with, they want to keep their monopoly. They want to get their monopoly back, and they have unlimited resources with which to address any competitors. So you think they might set up 140,000 nodes just to keep their competition at bay? Absolutely. Especially if they were counting on Lightning Network. Now the reason I say that it's proponents of Lightning Network and or the companies behind Lightning Network and possibly even Microsoft is because there are multiple attacks going on with regard to Bitcoin, to try and force the traffic off-chain. The most recent of which is being Veribit. See, there was a talk not too long ago, they've been trying to increase the block size for some time now, right? Or at least a lot of us have been promulgating that that's the way out of this shit. And so, recently, not all that long ago, maybe a month and a half, Luke Jr. and a couple other people were talking about the possibility of reducing the block size. Now, this was received about as well as you would expect. Not very well at all. Some people actually wrote glorious articles, saying how wonderful it would be, right? But the intent behind it was to corral people into using Lightning Network. Because they were talking about reducing the block size down to like 300k or some shit like that. Tiny, teeny, tiny blocks, right? Oh yeah, that's going to increase decentralization, right? It's also going to make it to where you have 1/3 amount of block space to get your transaction into. So what's the likelihood that you're going to be able to afford any of that block space? Probably not all that high. So again, there are people trying to corral Bitcoin users into using Lightning Network. They're going about it in a multitude of ways. First of all, it was forcing us to retain the 1 megabyte block size limit. That's been like, part of their gig this whole time. 2, eliminating options other than Lightning Network. So, promulgating lower block size, taking up block space unnecessarily, I might add, as several entities had commented on the article I'd read about Veriblock, where I guess there are multiple projects out there already that do exactly what Veribit does with much less interaction with the blockchain. So the fact that they're sucking up about 45% of the block space at their peak in any given day, that means there's only 65% for you and everybody else to compete for. Well, I'm sorry, 55%. I can do math when I'm not trying to rant. Anyway, 55% for you to compete with the rest of the planet for. So that kind of, that does a little bit to maybe force people into considering off-chain transactions, because of course it's going to put a premium on the remaining block space. We can economics too. Now you add to it several attacks on the alternatives to using Lightning, i.e. Electrum being one of them. There's also been on Twitter and in various social media platforms this railing against SPV wallets. They've only worked for about 7 years now, 6 or 7 years now, but they're terrible. According to these people on Twitter. Oh, you shouldn't trust an SPV node. You shouldn't trust an SPV wallet. You shouldn't trust your funds in that. Why would anybody say that about a project that's been live and operational for 6 years? Because they want you to use their shit, which is still, as of to date, in testnet mode and beta testing. 18 months my ass. I'm more convinced than ever that there's a massive disinformation campaign, and it is intended specifically to lie you into using Lightning. If anybody lies about something for 4 fucking years, that tells me that they have some sort of evil intent in mind. They're very intent on deceiving you about what they're doing, and they've been at it for a long time. I kind of consider it a testament to the resilience of the cryptocurrency communities that for the most part we've managed to operate as though they don't exist, and that they're not actually going to achieve what they're trying to do. And more I am seeing people sour on the idea of Lightning Network as it's becoming obvious to them with $+ transaction fees that trend is not going to go away. That as long as they're contained to or limited to 1 megabyte on the block size, that space is going to get more finite and it's going to get more expensive as time goes on. So the likelihood of their continued participation at the level that they are at is lower by the day. It's a lot easier to see something when you're experiencing just a little bit of it in reality. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And, I haven't played any Skindred tonight, and so here it is. Nobody. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Rammstein with Du Hast. And it is with that I'd like to wrap up this episode. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, you can find me on Facebook, also on Twitter, Frank Dashwood. You can also find me in the Telegram and Discord channels for Verge Currency. So until Wednesday, I want y'all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you, especially if you haven't updated your wallet. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I have not picked one out. As always, I like to leave it until the very last minute, As far as where we're going to go with it, I haven't played any Lamb of God. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I haven't played. I've been getting quite a bit of stuff in my repertoire, and so choosing which song to exit on, it's getting even harder to do. Anyway, this one seems like a good one. Die With Your Boots On, Iron Maiden, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent evening.